Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to both of us. Happy birthday to you and me. And many more. I just want to give a shout out to my lovely partner. Happy birthday. It is your birthday today, and happy birthday to me. We both share the same birth date. So I wanted to start off the video with that. Now, I haven't done a video in a while, and there's a good reason for that. Over the course of this last month, I've had just a really difficult time. Now, all in the back of my head, I understood why. And that is because I've come out of this is kind of the last bit of coming out of my Saturn return. And I'm in my 5th, 7th cycle. So every year, or every 7 years, you go through what is called like a replenishment. You don't only replenish your whole body and completely change every cell within your body, but you go through another specific phase of your life, I guess. Where I'm at, being 35 today, I'm at the very beginning of another new 7 years. And I find for me, and this may ring true for you as well, that the year before, like in your 6th year, essentially, literally pretty much from that birth date onto the closure of that year, I'm in turmoil. And this is rung true year after year or cycle after cycle. Now, it took me a while to recognize that this was indeed what was going on. And I've really just taken this last month. I haven't done any new videos. I haven't had any clients. I have not written a blog post. I haven't had the energy to do so. And I've been afflicted with illness, which I'm still suffering from at the moment, or finding myself in. And that is because I've been in confliction with myself so much lately. I understand this. From everything from an eye infection, which, obviously prevented me from shooting a video, to a virus, to a cold. All of these things were speaking to me in the form of an illness to say, hey, you're not seeing something. You're not listening to yourself, or you're not taking the guidance that you were supposed to be using. And it's really been this last month, I guess, a month of deep, deep reflection. As I'm now on this new cusp of my 35 years here among this planet, this last year has shaken me up, to say the least. It has shaken me up in ways that I guess I needed. And there's been a lot of ups and downs. So I just want to kind of take some time to reflect with you guys some of the things that I have learned and some of the things I've struggled with, because I know a lot of you are on this journey as well, and to get a little bit of insight as to what it is that I'm going through might help you along your journey. Now, first off, I was talking about these cycles, and I clearly remember, and this is something that's stayed with me for a very long time. When I turned 13, literally the day I turned 13, that was the first time that I ever felt a deep sadness within me it was so deep that I just was unable to shake myself from it. And I remember being so affected by this sadness, and like a darkness, right? Because it's like a depression. I remember being so affected by it. Um, and it still stays with me today, that feeling, like how I went from, like, I guess being really pure and innocent for a lot of my life, like most of my life up until then. I was just a very pure, kind of innocent being, kind of naive, well, really naive. I had been sheltered a lot. That happened to be a turning point within my family as well. Um, and so there was a lot of things going on in my family life. And then, of course, turning 13 obviously is a big change already. But that is um, the catalyst year before your seventh year. And these feelings overwhelmed me to such a degree that it never left my memory. And there's a reason why. When I turned 14, obviously, those things went away. They, I just, moved into my new phase of life, not knowing it, of course, but that is exactly what occurred. At this point, in this last week more so, I have come to the understanding of how that all played a part and where I was at, because I had to look at all these different cycles. And then I started realizing, like a lot of people go through these changes, say when they hit certain numbers. Some people freak out when they turn 30. I never had anything like that. Um, so I wonder if that's more just our society playing upon age and, you know, how it reflects back to us and makes us feel internally. For me, it was always these odd years that I just couldn't even connect to that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm 30. That didn't bother me. It was just all these other years that stood out that I went, okay, now let's look at what was occurring during that year. And indeed, they all lined up with my 7 year transition. It was always in the 6th year of that 7 year transition that I would go through turmoil and complete change in not only my whole body, my physical body, but my spiritual body, my being, my mental capacity to understand things. And 35 is a great year for that. In fact, um, if you look at any of the ascended masters, like Buddha or Jesus, or pretty much any of them, 35 was the year where they had their big spiritual enlightenment. And for me, I've always been on this spiritual journey to a degree. I've always been kind of waking up. I've always been connected, but without the information. So for me, it's been happening slowly, but I had a mass that came up in this last year. And that was more being able to be connected in some way to the information. Because information was coming through, but I didn't understand that information. There wasn't a way for me to fully grasp that information until the last few years, when internet has exploded with information. I didn't know what I was going through. Couldn't put my finger on it, so to say. That's why I make these videos too, because there's a lot of you out there who have been going through similar things as I have. And so that was really coming out of my Saturn return, which happens every 29 and a half years. That's when you start your Saturn return. And that is the catalyst for massive change in your life. because Saturn coming back into your life essentially brings up everything that you need to let go of, whether that be habits or the way that you act, the way that you feel, the way that you treat yourself, your mental processing, your emotional processing. Um, Saturn has a way of bringing all of these things to the front, to the surface. And there's a lot of people who go through extreme turmoil and depression around this time because you realize that all of the foundations that you've put in place in your early 20s, that you've been just, skimming by on, are flimsy, and that you can no longer get by on those. So there's a lot of people who actually struggle without knowing what is occurring, and that they're actually going through this process of everything coming up and rising within them to say, okay, learn to let go of that and learn to harness a new maturity. Learn to build some new structures and foundations that you can actually rise upon. And if you're unaware and you're going through that, then you're more than likely just living in a state of depression or sadness or anger, confusion, because you don't really have the foundation to understand why everything is so hard. Because indeed, that's what happens. Everything becomes so hard. And it's for a good reason. There's resistance to the old life that you were living. And that is to bring about the change within you. Now, a lot of this within your Saturn return and the previous 7 years, up to 35, that is all your emotional based stuff. So if you don't have the foundation to fully grasp everything that's coming to you on an emotional level, you may be struggling, or you may find yourself in a position where you're struggling. And that was kind of where I was at a year ago, was this emotional roller coaster. And I mean, a spiritual awakening on its own is an emotional roller coaster. You all know that. But the catalyst year has always been one of turmoil, one of a lot of trauma, one of a lot of emotional upheaval, and one of self-reflection and scrutiny, which indeed has been this last year, but especially this last month up until today. And it's brought me back into some old patterns and old cycles. And I know that part of that was, what was projected for this month is that we're falling back into our old patterns because it's so easy, and we've relaxed on our tendency to, I don't want to say control our minds, but keep our minds in check, and those old thought processes and things like that. So I really, really resonate now, after going through this last month, with what the Pleiadians had to tell us about that, falling into those old patterns. And that was more so just the mind and the patterns that we used to cycle in. For me, I definitely went into those. And it was exaggerated by the fact that I was coming up to the end of not only my Saturn return, but to the end of my 7-year cycle. So this last month was really like the slap in the face. It's when you turn 35, it's what a lot of people perceive as your major wake-up call in your life, which I find interesting because I've had lots. But this is supposed to be the year where you really you finish taking stock of everything that has made you who you are, and you start to want to share in some way, contribute in some way for the benefit of the people on this planet. Lots of people lots of people who have money, lots of money, will do things like build libraries or certain foundations for charities, things like that, to give back. This is the time where we want to give back everything that we have learned and start applying that on a deep level, which I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about that, because clearly my path has brought me here today with you guys. So although I've had tons of ideas for videos and blogs and things rolling through my head, and I've had the urge and the want and the desire to create these videos and do these things for you guys and for myself, my higher self just said, no, this is your last month to really experience the deepest depths of your emotional layers and resolve some of them that no longer serve you. And so for me, this past year has taught me a lot about letting go, a lot about what feelings are actually mine. Because, of course, I am an empath and I absorb a lot. But what feelings are truly mine, and what feelings have come from my childhood? What programs have come from my childhood or influences? What has influenced me throughout my life? Not just my childhood, but from friendships, from partnerships, from jobs and work situations. Where have I placed myself in this world? And in fact, this last 7 years has been one of retraction for me. And I have, because, of course, it's been that of looking introspectively at who I really am as a person and what I want to be. And in order to gain anything from that, you have to divide yourself from everything else that you've picked up. And I think I've done a decent job of that. I'm not sure if I've fully healed all of those aspects, but I do believe that in this year, in this next year, this is a year to really bring forth what I've learned and to share that with all of you and put into practice what it is that I've picked up. Now, that being said, this has also been a time for me to realize that my past has not made me who I am necessarily. We get stuck in this idea that the past has shaped us. And that is kind of a linear way of thinking, because you're in control so much of everything that you do and how you shape your life. There has been a massive change in the last month. That has to do with the past being just a story, and the story that I tell myself about who I am and how my past has shaped me. But those things are irrelevant, and that might be hard to swallow. But they are indeed irrelevant to the person that you are today, the person that I am today. So, do I want to hold on to the past? If I hold on to the past, then how is it that I am going to be capable of shaping my future in the desired manner that I wish to? If I hold on to all of the hurt and the pain, all of the sorrow, even all the joy, and I allow that to shape the way that my mind works and my thought processes, and I allow myself to toil in these situations, and I allow these past experiences to continually affect my choices and decisions in the future based upon something that happened in my childhood or in my early adult life. If I allow these things to affect every relationship, every word that comes out of my mouth, every thought that I have, every ounce of love that I have to give, then I'm not giving of myself fully. I'm not allowing myself the opportunity for change. I am denying myself that love for myself. I am denying that love from coming up out of me and being spread to everyone else. I'm causing resistance within my body and my being, and I will be incapable of creating the change that I seek. So you must ask yourself, what are you holding on to? Why are you holding on to that story? I'm no better. I'm no different than any of you. This past month, I've really done that. I've gone right back to square one. Almost like I was at the beginning of this 7-year cycle. But it was all condensed into 1 month. This whole 7-year cycle was condensed into 1 month where I was experiencing all of the stuff that I started off feeling and all of the negative thought patterns and, the emotions and the need to try and suppress them or fill them up with something else, some other satisfaction that would not actually give me satisfaction. It brought me back to some really deeply ingrained patterns. And then I had to go, okay, pluck, bye. I don't want this one either. What is it about? Oh, well, yeah, I see what that's about. Okay, that's not serving me. Goodbye. Slowly but surely, over this last month, I have cleaned up a lot of this and said no and stopped denying the love that's within me. I truly do want to make a change. And I know that this next 7 years is about how I'm going to do that. Not how up here, but watching it unfold into the actualization of that. And not just, for you guys or for anybody on this beautiful planet, but for me, my family, my relationships. This is a time when you break free from everything. You cut all the ties to everything that you once believed. This next cycle is really about finding freedom. And I don't mean like that concept of freedom. I mean like you step into you 100%. You finally step into you without being influenced by anything or anyone else. And you really truly utilize your mind's processes to a higher degree, as well as the creative processes, which I'm super excited about because I am a very creative person. And I found that in this last year, all of that seems to have just like dissipated, and I've been struggling with not being creative. not feeling those juices flowing, and not having the want or even the desire or the fulfillment from doing art or making things with my hands or, you know, singing and things like that that I typically do a lot of. So this is going to be a great 7 years. I'm very excited about it. And I want to know kind of where you're at in your cycles, and if this resonates with you, please leave a comment below. I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say and where you're at. So we should start a conversation on it. Now, the other thing is that I wanted to bring up about all of this is that I reached a point over the last 3 months, and that has to do with being a woman and having my own cycles. Um, Men have their own cycles too, but ours are focused around a certain time of the month. And really starting to learn how to honor those cycles and understand them, because I was coming up to this point where I would reach it like a peak. And every time around that time of my cycle, the week before, I was in like this little mini crisis. It felt like for for 3 months now that's happened, and I understand now that that has come to really push all of these things to the surface and to deal with them. And what I've decided to do is get together a support system for myself, because my situation is similar to a lot of people here where I live, but different in the way that I'm going through this whole spiritual journey, and I'm struggling with it simply because I do have a partner who works away all the time. I do have two very, very little children who I've raised for 4 years by myself for the most part. And I don't have family or friends here. Um, so I don't have a support system. I don't have a shoulder to lean on when I'm really upset or I'm really in this deep period of my life. So in the last 3 months, what's occurred is that the week before my cycle, I would get extremely depressed and frantic and incapable, completely incapable of dealing with any stress. And I felt frazzled, completely frazzled. And I didn't know what to do. And, you know, I could anticipate that it was coming. After the first time, the second time, I was like, oh gosh, it's coming. Yet I didn't have the means to get any help at that point. So I've decided to put together some sort of support for myself, because my journey, although like I have a really good understanding and working of my systems in my brain, um, my journey has come to the point where, okay, I'm just, I need more time for me. And I need more time to do the things that I want to do, such as making these videos and things like that, because I am a stay-at-home mom all the time, and I'm on 24 hours a day. It makes it more difficult to do all these other things that I want to do. I want to do these videos, and I want to do my blog posts, and I want to do other things too, but finding the time for that has been, you know, very difficult. Finding the time to take care of myself properly has been very difficult, let alone all the other things on top. So I've really had to reassess my priorities and find some support for myself. I also homeschool and do those things, so you know my time it's been taken up a lot in the last while, and I came to that point where I just went, okay, I can't do this alone anymore. I just can't. And a lot of my frustration and anger has been coming from a point of having to do this alone all the time. And I know I'm not alone in some way. There is always these groups that I'm in and, conversations that I have with amazing people like you. However, when it comes to I just need a break for a moment, I don't have that. And yeah, I guess I've never been a proponent of um, therapists and psychologists and things like that. When people ask me if I think they should go and see a therapist or a counselor, my answer is typically, if you need to, then do that. I'm not a big proponent of them. I've had a lot of past experiences that have taught me that a lot of them are not in it for you, and they're not there to listen to you or help you through whatever it is that you need. I've just had a lot of bad experiences with them, and that has tainted me. And I understand that now. It has tainted me. However, I do tell people, I suggest to people, if they feel like they need to do that, then do that. But for me, it was like, that was not an option, right? More recently, and I know this was guided and that fate was playing out, I had a friend from my past find me on my page on Facebook. And she liked my page and she invited me to check her page out. And now, that being said, we haven't spoken or even seen each other in a very, 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 very long time. So our lives have been on separate paths. And we weren't even, super close before. But something about her being always told me that, there was a recognition there. After this last, the second month of this whole thing happening for me, I realized that she would be the one. She came across my path for a reason. She came back into my life at a time where I was actually thinking about her. And that's not a coincidence, it's a synchronicity, right? And when we have synchronicities like that occur in our lives, then we have to take notice as to what the significance of it is and what implications it has if we follow it and follow the promptings. So when she came across my path after I had thought about her for 2 weeks, I realized that she became a counselor. So she went to school and took all her training, but there's a twist to it. And that is, she's fully aware of the spiritual side of things. And her counseling is actually, it has the word indigo in it. And I thought, it's very interesting. I've always known that she's been, on her spiritual journey for a while. However, I found it rather intriguing that it would come all about in that synchronicity and how it laid out. And at the time when it happened, it was necessary for me to find help. And for me, it's more so that I have been so isolated a lot in my life, a lot. I have not had the toolkit, I guess, to function in society in a lot of ways, because there was this whole spiritual side of me that I didn't understand, and because of the life and the choices that I made and the life that I was living, and just couldn't figure out how to connect with a lot of people. So it brought me into isolation. I took myself into isolation a lot of those points. Other points, I was made to be in isolation when I was younger. So I've spent a lot of time kind of away from society, and I'm used to that. I'm used to not having a lot of people around. But at this point, I'm like, I need those people. I need connection. I need to tell people my story. And I will probably write a book about it at some point. But at this point, some of it is so deep and so hard for me to express. And that is a part of me working through my throat chakra, that I need to express that story. I'm not really ready to express that to all of you yet, but I need to get it off and off my shoulders and out of me, to be able to move on and to have somebody to genuinely listen and to understand the spiritual aspects of that too. Because even though I was really unaware, I mean, I had these inclinations and understandings of things when I was growing up, but I was unaware of what it all meant. I didn't have somebody to show me, and I'm sure you didn't either. Not like our future children, you know, these generations that are coming now, they have us. They have us here to teach them. We didn't have that. So there's a lot of things that I just need to express in a non-judgmental way, and I need to know that I'm secure and safe. And talking to a counselor seemed in one way like there was so much resistance within my being because of all the trauma I have experienced around my youth, and around counseling and the experiences I've had with them. That caused so much resistance within my being that sent me deeper into old patterns and beliefs. And I really had to work my way out of the climb slowly out of all of that over the last month and just let go. Let go. She came into my life at the point that I needed her for a reason. I have to trust that the universe has my back and that this is the right thing to do. So I found somebody to just talk to. And that's because, like I said, I've been in isolation. I haven't had too many close friends throughout my life. Nobody that I could say I can be totally vulnerable with 100%. Which is sad. But at the same time, I am what I am and who I am and where I am right now. And I have to honor and respect that. So I found that support. Now I can finally share my story uninhibited with somebody. So that's going to be, it's already been, I've only had one session and it's already been great relief for me. Great relief. Now the other aspect of that is finding some childcare. Because I'm going through such a change. And I know it'll get easier now that I'm 35. It's going to change. But at the same time, I want to implement these changes fully because I have had struggles with staying consistent with just about everything in my life, throughout my life. And that's just, not having the necessary toolkit to apply it all and stay consistent. That's that self-saboteur within me, my outer child, who wants to sabotage every single thing that I implement that would be of a benefit to me. And really that just boils down to my inner child being hurt and doing some more work with her. Because once she feels secure, and this new thing that I'm doing, this change that I'm making, is not a threat, and she's not being abandoned again, then that little outer child will just go, okay, bye, which is what I want. So I have issues around the self-sabotager, that little girl who's just like, you think you're going to do that? I don't think so. I'll make sure and stop you. from living a happy and healthy life. But really, the power is in my hands to make that change. So getting the story out, being able to share it with somebody, will also help me in sharing these aspects and feeling more vulnerable with those in my life, because I have major issues around trust and security and abandonment. And those things control a lot of my decision making in my life. So to feel vulnerable, even in front of this therapist, it was really hard for me to fully open up and do that. And I plan in this next year opening up more of my own life to all of you in hopes that it might help you find some meaning in what it is that's happened in your life. And the other thing that I decided, like I said, childcare, so that I can get a break to, after these sessions, to actually go through the work and to soothe myself, because that was a huge thing. If you're a textile person, you really like textures, soft things, fuzzy things, things with different textures. There's a good bet that you can use those things to soothe you, just like you were a child. I happen to have over there this amazing Papasan couch. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's like this half oval, essentially. And I've got the softest, fuzziest, oh, the nicest cushion in there. And I've got velvet pillows in there. And I'm going to go and get a really soft baby blanket. And after my sessions, I'm going to crawl in there and I'm going to hold everything like I did as a child. Everybody has that little favorite thing of theirs when they're a child. Maybe it's a stuffed animal, maybe it's your baby blanket, whatever the case may be. If you're a textile person, there's a good chance that sitting in something like that, or just creating like this womb-like feeling, or just something where you're surrounded by these textures, after you go through the process of actually unloading emotions that may have been traumatic, or more than likely have been traumatic, to soothe yourself this way. And I know for me, it's always been something that's been soothing. If I'm not feeling right within, or maybe I'm feeling some fear, or something has just come up that's made me feel insecure, my tendency is to grab a blanket or a pillow anyways and just hug it. So all these little things are something for me to put into practice, and to get the care for my children so that I can take more time, because that is another thing. Over the last year, while I've been going through the epic shifts of my life, I just haven't had as much time as I would like to apply just to me. So this is a time for me to finally take that and ask for help in more than one way. And I've also decided to see a naturopath. And all of these things I was guided to, all of these, getting the care, seeing somebody to speak to, seeing a naturopath, all of these things I've been guided to. It was just time to ask for help and support so that I have more time for myself. And I have more time to do things that bring me joy and do things that bring the life back into me. If you're not living your life from this place of joy, then you can't create your dreams either. And that's another thing that I've been struggling with, is I have all these dreams and I have all this want and desire and need, and I try to put this energy out, but it's not coming back in the right way. My manifestations are not being created in their fullest capacity because the energy of myself has been so low because I just don't have as much time for myself that I can't put that loving, fun energy behind my manifestations. And that is what is required. If you want something positive in your life and you want to manifest that into reality, you need to first have that energy built up within you before you spit it out of your mouth, before you create it or think it or imagine it or say it. You need to be in a place of that energy, of that fun, the joie de vivre. If you're not there, guess what happens? And if you're in negative spirals, well, guess what that's going to bring you? That is energy too. That's hardcore negative energy, right? Which brings you hardcore negative energy. But the thing that we don't realize about our manifestations is that whatever we put out into the universe will come back tenfold to us. So if you're in a negative state of mind, or you're in a depression or whatever on that spectrum, then you can count on it coming back tenfold, which will affect you tenfold, which will make you even more upset and more down in the dumps and more negative. And guess what's going to come right back at you? Tenfold. So you can see why it keeps pushing you down, right? Whereas when you're up and you want to go up and you're putting that love and joy into everything that you create, you go really far up. And then when you're there, you're getting it tenfold. And you go further up. And you can see why the reversal and the polarity between the two is so extreme. But it's really about maintaining both of those. If you don't continue to keep your mind in check and keep putting that energy behind the loving vibrations that you're sending out there to manifest your dreams into reality, you'll hit the plateau again. Whereas, when you're here, you just kind of keep going down because it's coming at you so hard every time you put it out that it just keeps pushing you down. Here, you really have to keep elevating yourself until you've retrained your mind completely. So, that is where I'm at. Reality check. That has been my year. It's been amazing, super amazing. It's created opportunity to connect with so many of you on such deep personal levels. And I'm so very grateful for all of you and the meaning that you've brought to my own life. And I hope that I have brought some to your life as well. It has also been a year of intense inner turmoil and intense pain. But out of that pain, out of the turmoil, has come this inner strength, this beauty, and this recognition, not only for myself, but for my capacity to exist among this plane. Exist without the boundaries and limitations, and to exist without influence from anybody else and anything else. But to really step into my being. This is the year where I get to do that. And to really see my potential grow. It's been an interesting year. There's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of growth. There's been a lot of tears. And there's been a lot of joy. And now that I'm coming to this, or come to the close of my 7-year cycle, I'm super excited. I am so excited for this next year to come and to finally let go of a lot of that pain, to finally be able to move on into a new beginning, a new chapter, a new phase of my life. And I look forward to bringing you guys with me. I want to do something special this month because it is a big celebration for me to the juncture point of where I am right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to share your stories in the comments below. Or you can alternatively go to the discussion area and start a discussion. I want to know your story, where you're at, where you've been, where it's taken you on this journey, and how these specific times in your life have affected you. So I'm going to choose a couple of winners this month out of the people who leave these comments and share their stories, because your story is just as valuable as mine. And they're valuable to me too. So this month I will be selecting a couple of people for a free one-on-one session with me, for a soul tapping session, based out of the people who leave comments and share their stories. That being said, I will also choose a couple of people to do healing sessions on this month. And I will choose them out of those comments that are left below this video and give you guys an opportunity to find yourselves further or to heal some aspects of yourselves. I want to do that because part of my purpose and journey here is to help others. And by sharing and being vulnerable about where you are and what you've found to be true or not true in your lives, gives you the opportunity to find some meaning as well. So to elaborate on that, I will go through and read the stories and read the comments that you wish to share. And I will select a few people who I feel or am guided to specifically who are ready to evolve further. So share as much as you like or as little as you like. That's really up to you. But that's how I'm going to do the draw this month. So if you've won before, that's okay. If you haven't, that's okay too. I'll give you a new opportunity. I thought I would shake things up a little bit just because, why not? I'm at a different stage of my life, so I may as well go about starting some discussions on some of these things, as I think that's going to be something that I will incorporate into my own journey later on, is teaching, not just on videos, but doing live sessions, classes, or events where we'll talk about these things as a group. And as I said before, I think, I will probably write a book at some point. Not sure when, but I see a book in my future. And I see this as a means or a way of also not only just sharing my story, but invoking that within other people to be able to learn how to share theirs. and to speak truly from their being rather than their mind, which is, of course, one of the things that I'm doing. So go ahead and share. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with as many people as you can. I will probably do the selection roughly around 2 weeks after this video is posted, simply because it'll take some time for everybody to leave and share their stories, and I want to give you all an opportunity to do that. And yeah, well, I don't really know what else to say other than I love you all. And I'm just so grateful to have this life and this chance to finally express myself and come out as the person that I truly am. Thank you for being on this journey with me. I send you all my love from a new place in my existence, and I hope it finds you well on your journey. I hope this love is emanated and then it finds you and brings you peace of mind, peace of your heart and of your being, and that you're able to share yourself fully with other people, just as I do you. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.